This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and here is a, relatively speaking, affordable or entry-level gaming laptop from MSI. Most of their models are, kind of pricey. They're well over $1,000 or so. So this one is the MSI GL62M. It doesn't get a name, a series name, like the higher end models do, the Stealth, the Dominator, even the Apache, which is the lowest end of the named MSI series. It's still a pretty good laptop, and it's very competitive against things like the HP Omen 15, the Dell Inspiron 15 Gamer, and the Acer Helios 300 too. You've got a 15.6-inch laptop here. It's available in full HD IPS matte non-touch, like all gaming laptops. So there's also a 120 hertz TN panel with 94% of NTSC color gamut coverage. And there's even a 4K option too, which is kind of strangely overkill for a low-end model like this. Anyway, there's a Core i7-7700 HQ inside, so that's a full quad-core 45-watt CPU like you'd expect to see in any gaming laptop. And for the price, it's pretty nice, because often if you're looking at something like the Dell Inspiron gaming line, then you're going to get a Core i5 for the price that this is at. You can get it with an SSD and a hard drive, or just a hard drive, 8 or 16 gigs of RAM from the factory. All the usual things you'd expect. NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti dedicated graphics, and here switchable via Optimus with the Intel HD 630 graphics. So when you're doing lightweight tasks and you don't want battery life to take a hit, you get the idea there. So this one came from GearBest. Who knew that GearBest, an importer, also sells gaming laptops? Being that MSI is in China, it kind of makes some sense. So is GearBest. So they sell this one for $979 with that Core i7, the GTX 1050 Ti inside. You can also find it on Amazon and other places as well. It really depends on where you're most interested in buying from, who ships to the country that you're in. I know many of you from different countries who are watching. And if you buy from GearBest, I'm pretty sure you can avoid sales tax in the United States, which is nice for more expensive things. We're going to look at it now. So the MSI GL62M is one of those sort of thin and light gaming laptops in the entry-level range. We've seen this before, the Dell Inspiron 15 Gaming Edition, for example, the Asus ROG Strix GL502, which is nice. So you've got something that weighs 2.2 kilograms, or 4.8 pounds. It's 25 millimeters thick, which is an inch. So that's really, for a gaming laptop, not much size and weight. Of course, the trade-off is going to be the battery. Wait till you see the internals. There's a teeny battery in here. It's 41 watt hour. So just like the ROG Strix, for example, and the higher end of the Dell Inspiron Gaming Edition, battery life is not going to be fantastic on this. We'll talk about that more later. Once you get away from the fact that you are not going to get away from the outlet for all that long, it's a pretty good machine for the price, and it's certainly an affordable way to get into an MSI gaming laptop. I mean, you've got the full HD matte display here, IPS with good viewing angles, decent display metrics. You can see those on screen here. Again, competitive with other laptops in this price range. It's not going to blow you away with color gamut unless you go for that nice 120 hertz TN panel with 94% NTSC coverage. But then again, you're getting the wide viewing angles of IPS, and 120 hertz is kind of overkill when you have an NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti GPU in here. That is the lower end of NVIDIA's Sirius 10 series cards. It's not rated for VR, but you can do mixed reality stuff under Windows with this. It is powerful enough, certainly for games like Overwatch, Diablo 3. Those games are not super demanding of the GPU. In fact, even more demanding games can play pretty well in here, and you can see some footage going on. The only time you're not going to hold 60 frames per second at native 1080p resolution easily is for those really, really demanding games, like The Witcher 3 still is, for example, or Mass Effect Andromeda. Build quality on this, well, yeah, MSI uses a lot of fantastic plastic, and that's what it is here. The logo on the lid is a little bit smaller, at least. I know some of you don't like the big red dragon on the lid, and it's a matte black soft touch kind of finish that doesn't show a whole lot of fingerprints. Feels decently sturdy, but not super duper rigid. Again, in this price range, and particularly with gaming laptops, you don't see a whole lot of high-end classy metal rigid designs unless you're looking at fairly expensive boutique products like the Razer Blade, for example. It's decent enough build quality. It's impact absorbing. I've owned MSI laptops, and they have held up pretty well. Ports, as you would expect, there's plenty on here. You get a full-size SD card slot. You have HDMI 2.0, your USB 3.0 ports, and USB-C. Yay! There's no Thunderbolt 3 at this price point though. And of course you have wired Ethernet. The keyboard is a SteelSeries keyboard. I like the feel, and it's nice compared to, say, again, something like the Dell Inspiron Gaming Edition, which has a very, very short travel keyboard. This one has more of your normal 1.4 millimeter travel. Really nice tactile feel. It's supposed to be anti-ghosting, and it's backlit in red. The trackpad's made by Synaptics, and MSI used to have really crappy trackpads that just made you go crazy. Not so bad here, actually. It's okay. It's not phenomenal, but it's passably decent, and I do like that there's actual separate left and right mouse clicky buttons on it. When it comes to the internals, it's got your typical gaming laptop architecture, and that's a good thing. That means there's room for growth inside. There are models with a boot SSD. You can get PCIe, NVMe one. You don't have to stick to SATA 3. It does support both. And our base model here just has a 7200 RPM hard drive. So you have the M2 slot. You have the hard drive bay in here. You have two RAM slots for DDR4 RAM. Theoretically, you could go up to 32 gigs with two 16 gig modules. The base model starts at 8 gigs of RAM, but it's cheap and easy enough to upgrade that. You've got dual fans inside, one for the CPU, one for the GPU, and take a look at the bottom here. There is just a lot of ventilation. I like what MSI has been doing lately with putting lots and lots of ventilation on the laptop, because nobody wants their gaming laptop to be crippled because of heat, right? You don't have to worry about the fact your CPU and your GPU are baking. Certainly not the case here. The GTX 1050 Ti is not a real hot, powerful card anyway, but the CPU and the GPU temperatures where, well, the CPU typically is in the 70s when gaming, and the GPU is typically in the low 60s centigrade. That is phenomenal. There are no hot spots on this laptop to the touch. Even when gaming, though, you'll feel some warmth, certainly on the bottom side. The only thing that's a bummer here is the battery life, and like I said, that's the trend right now with these entry-level gaming laptops that are kind of slim and kind of light, so you feel like, oh, well, I could take this to class. Yeah, you can, as long as you're near an outlet, because we average about 3.5 hours of battery life. That's doing productivity work. That is not gaming. It can use the Intel HD 630 integrated graphics. It's got NVIDIA Optimus switchable graphics, which should save you some, but a 41 watt-hour battery is just tiny. That's on the low end even for a 13-inch dual-core Ultrabook these days. So, yeah. It comes with a 150 watt charger, and that's perfectly adequate for this laptop. It's not going to need more than that, even when you're gaming at full throttle. Now, one thing to note, if you buy this from GearBest, it's going to ship with Chinese Windows. So you're going to have to either install the English language pack or whatever your country's language is, or you can just download Windows 10 installation media and install Windows 10 Home on this for your language. Just wipe it out and start from scratch. You lose the MSI bloatware, which is a good thing, but you should add a few things like MSI's Dragon Center, and enables you to handle the cooling profiles, which is good because the fans are a little bit noisy at idle. They're a little bit overkill, and you can adjust that. Dragon Center is actually pretty excellent for that. And there's a couple of other drivers. You can go to MSI's website and pick and choose the ones that you want. The most important really would be Dragon Center and the one for the control keys on the keyboard. So to access the internals, you remove the entire bottom cover here, and there's lots of little Phillips head screws. Here they are, right here in a safe little drawer. Unscrew that, and then you can pry off the bottom. It will kind of catch along this area right here because of the headphone and microphone jack, so work it off of that area there. So once we're inside, two RAM slots for DDR4 RAM. Pretty standard stuff going on here. There is an M2 SSD slot. I have added this one. There was not one in our particular model, which is the lowest end configuration. It works with SATA and PCIe NVMe SSDs, so good times there. You have options available to you. There's our hard drive, 2.5-inch hard drive bay. You could also put a 2.5-inch SSD in there if you wanted to. And we have a Hitachi 7200 RPM hard drive inside of there. Lots of nice copper going on for the cooling. It's pretty well built, almost overbuilt for cooling when it comes to what the GPU is doing here, because the GTX 1050 Ti is not the most hot running GPU, being at the lower end of the spectrum of performance. So we have our CPU right there, nice 4 screws, notice retaining here, so good even heatsink coverage on there. Our 2 fans, and this is a teeny weeny little battery. Oh my god, right? No wonder this does not have very good battery life. And to take the battery out, actually, it's not so hard. You just lift up and it connects right there on this connector here, and you've got to unscrew this screw, and then you could replace the battery if you ever needed to a couple of years down the road. There are dual stereo speakers, 2 on each side right here. Now, on the bottom cover, you might have noticed that there is a, I'll show you, a mesh grill, which looks like it's for a subwoofer. Now, this bottom cover must be used on other models that do have a subwoofer because there is no subwoofer there. And we wouldn't expect one in this price range. So that's the MSI GL62M, catchy name there, eh? Anyway, for the price, it's a very nice entry-level gaming laptop. For those of you who really want to get into MSI, you like that SteelSeries keyboard, their focus on very good cooling. Like I said, I like the heatsink, no tripod design there, 4 screws, one each corner for a good even heatsink coverage, beefy fans, lots of ventilation, and good performance that you'd expect from MSI. Well, it's certainly worth consideration. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, including gaming laptops. And thumbs up if you like this vid.